Next on the news. The devastation from Hurricane Ian is hard to comprehend, and now Catholic Charities USA is ready to help in the wake of the deadly storm. And it's a sense of renewal for local priests after an event on Long Island.
More than 250 priests from the Diocese of Brooklyn are renewing their brotherhood. I'm Jessica Easthope with what the Away Convocation means to those who participated for 15 years and those who are here for the first time.
Also, they're calling it a miracle, how a rare heart surgery saved an infant's life. Plus, her calling is to care for people. We'll meet the teen who wants to be the youngest graduate at one nursing school. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now.
This could be the deadliest hurricane in Florida's history.
And one of the most powerful storms to ever hit the United States. Hundreds feared dead, thousands more wait to be rescued, literally trapped inside their homes. First responders trying to make their way to them, battling floods and destroyed infrastructure. The scope of Hurricane Ian's destruction in Florida is only starting to be realized tonight. President Joe Biden said he expects a substantial loss of life. But Catholic Charities USA says they have response teams in place ready to face the devastation.
We are trying to put wood in the windows.
These sisters worked hard boarding up the windows at St. Michael's Parish in the Diocese of Venice, Florida. But in some parts of the Sunshine State, no amount of preparation was a match for the power of Hurricane Ian.
Everything's flooded. Everything is ruined.
As Floridians begin to survey the damage left in the wake of the storm, FEMA, the U.S. Coast Guard, and other entities are working by land, air, and sea.
Coast Guard deployed 16 rescue helicopters, 6 fixed-wing aircraft, and 18 rescue boats and crews.
President Joe Biden promised the full support of the federal government after attending a briefing at FEMA headquarters.
We've dispatched over 1,000 FEMA personnel and prepositioned major federal capacities and capabilities and supplies.
Catholic Charities has also mobilized its teams to help. And on Thursday, the Diocese of St. Petersburg posted this prayer on its social media for all of the first responders who are coming to the aid of others impacted by the hurricane. The president also approved a major disaster declaration for the state.
That means the federal government will cover 100% of the cost to clear debris and for all the costs that the state has to engage in and expend to save lives.
The declaration also makes federal aid available, including grants to help individuals and business owners in 9 counties recover from the effects of the disaster. Help desperately needed for the families displaced by Hurricane Ian.
We are preparing for the potential of thousands of families that are going to need assistance.
Governor Ron DeSantis is asking people who want to help not to send items such as clothes, but rather to volunteer or send economic help. And you can do that through Catholic Charities USA. Donations are being accepted at ccusa.online/Ian. Since the path of Hurricane Ian shifted as it made its way to Florida, some residents actually say they were caught off guard by it. We spoke by phone with Frank Cipolla, who rode out the storm in his Naples home.
Fort Myers and Naples generally was not prepared for this. We had heard all week long and almost to the very last minute that the storm was going to hit in Tampa or north of Tampa, which is a good 175, 200 miles from here. I saw very few homes with shutters on them. I think people just thought it'd be another Irma-like storm with a lot of rain and high winds, and it was. But I don't think anybody suspected that it would make that turn at the last minute.
Frank says his home wasn't too badly damaged because it's in the eastern part of Naples, so it's more inland. He compared Hurricane Ian to Superstorm Sandy because of the storm surge. Emergency responders are arriving in droves to help. Again, hundreds are feared dead and many residents remain trapped in their homes. But that help isn't necessarily on the way. Outside Naples, dozens of ambulances wait poised and ready, but damage to infrastructure is stopping their paths and their progress. Collier County is being used as a staging area for the arriving units. When paths are clear, they will deploy. A highly trained FDNY task force is also making its way down south. 15 members of the department's incident management team were deployed Wednesday afternoon to Tallahassee, Florida, and are expected to work their way down to the hard-hit areas. The unit is no stranger to devastating storms. In 2017, their members responded to Puerto Rico and helped with recovery efforts following Hurricane Maria. As Florida continues its cleanup efforts from Hurricane Ian, Puerto Rico is still struggling to rebuild after Hurricane Fiona made landfall almost 2 weeks ago. Coming up on Currents News, we check back in with Christian Ortiz, an employee of Net TV's parent company, DeSales Media Group. He gives us a first-hand account of the Catholic Americans struggling on the island. Puerto Rico is still recovering from Hurricane Maria, which hit 5 years ago. Also tonight, for the first time since the pandemic.
We always have challenges to do more. We can help and inspire each other along the way.
Priests from across the Diocese of Brooklyn all together learning how to minister in a new age.
What I would really want a new priest to get out of this is the feeling that he belongs with us.
Tonight on Currents News, the long-awaited away convocation. It's been 3 long years since a gathering like this, but what exactly is an away convocation? It's an essential meeting where priests come together to address the needs of an ever-changing diocese. Clergy breaking from their busy lives to check in on each other and renew their sense of brotherhood and faith. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has more from Huntington.
They look like old friends catching up. Many of them are. Meeting like this, away from their parishes, the city, and the needs of their people, is rare. It only happens every 3 years. It's called an away convocation. Father Joseph Fonti has been running them for 15 years. This time, more than 250 priests traveled to the Seminary of the Immaculate Conception for a chance to get back to the basics of priesthood, fraternity, and faith. Father Fonti says over the years, priests have been able to overcome generational and cultural divides.
The younger guys realize, you know what, the older men are not that different. Similarly, with the cultural difference, they're coming from a different ethnicity or a different language experience, but same love for Jesus and his priesthood.
The priests are broken up into 2 sessions over the week. On Wednesday, the groups overlap and come together for meals and a talk by Bishop Robert Brennan.
We're unified as brothers in mission, that we share a common call, and God, in his providence, put us together on the same team.
Priestly fraternity is the theme of this year's convocation. Monsignor Joseph Calise has been to 4 of them.
What I would really want a new priest to get out of this is the feeling that he belongs with us, that there is a fraternity, a feeling of being welcome, especially those priests who are coming from other countries.
But for others, like Father Elvin Torres, who was ordained last year, it's brand new.
Their wisdom, their experience, I want to learn as much as I can because one day I'll be there.
The priests also heard a keynote speech from Monsignor James Shea, president of the University of Mary in Bismarck, North Dakota, and an author.
The church has been rejected and replaced by a new vision. Priests need to be focused not upon just maintaining the way that we've always done things, but actually transforming strategically the way that we're proceeding.
Father Fonti is looking to plan more events throughout the diocese and hopes to hold away convocations more often. In Huntington, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Driving to those convocations could soon become a little easier on the environment. That's thanks to New York Governor Kathy Hochul, who on Thursday mandated that all new cars sold in the state become zero emission.
We're really putting our foot down the accelerator and revving up our efforts to make sure we have this transition, not someday in the future, but on a specific date, a specific year, by the year 2035.
To reach that 13-year goal, Governor Hochul says the state will need 35% of new cars to be zero emission by 2026 and 68% by 2030. The overarching goal of the initiative to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in New York by 85% by 2050. There's a lot more news headed your way. There's still massive power outages and a lack of usable water. We'll speak with a resident of Puerto Rico about how efforts are going after Hurricane Fiona. And the Kremlin poised to officially annex several territories in Ukraine. Plus, now he has a chance at life, how a miraculous heart procedure saved the life of an infant. It's been almost 2 weeks, and the people of Puerto Rico are trying to rebuild after Hurricane Fiona unleashed its fury on the island. As the cleanup continues, many areas are dealing with a lack of usable water. And now protests are erupting over the widespread power outages on the island. Joining us now is Christian Ortiz, an employee of DeSales Media Group, which is the parent company of Currents News. He lives in Puerto Rico. Hi, Christian. Good to see you again.
Hey, Christine.
So, Christian, we spoke with you right after the storm, and it doesn't sound like much has changed since then as far as power and water outages are concerned.
So I'm in San Juan now. I live in Arecibo, which is about an hour west of here. And although the electricity has returned, there's still no running water, which is a problem. So I've been staying in a hotel in San Juan where there's water, electricity, and decent Wi-Fi. So things have improved a little bit, but there's still a lot of us without water and some of us without electricity. And it's crazy because, we are American citizens, and this island is, depending on what source you go to, 75 to 80% Catholic. So these are Catholic Americans that are suffering.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, there have been protests going on all week outside of the governor's mansion. What is the message the people of Puerto Rico are trying to get to the officials there?
Just to be as loud and as disruptive as possible. They're peaceful protests, but they're just loud, and folks are banging on whatever they can bang on. And I think at the end of the day, the end game is to try to remove the current electricity company that is presiding over all this. They were hired about a year ago. I personally don't think they've been given enough time to fix a grid that has been neglected for decades. But they do charge some of the highest fees in the country. And Puerto Rico does pay some of the highest taxes in the country, and not to have basic infrastructures is not acceptable. So they're angry. Folks are angry.
So despite all of this that's happening, you still managed to make it to Mass. So talk about what the priest is saying to the people who live there.
That was interesting. First of all, I was surprised there were so many folks at Mass. The homily was basically about love, community, trust, perseverance, getting through times like this by trusting each other, and to be generous with your resources and to be generous with your love. I took some photos. I didn't feel that comfortable taking too many photos because people were there obviously to worship, but they did allow me to take some video of what was going on.
That's a nice message at this time. Now, there may be some who fear that Puerto Rico will be forgotten since Florida was just slammed by a hurricane. We don't want that to happen. So what can people do to help?
Good question. I would say, please reach out to your local congresswoman, congressperson, and allow them to continue to apply pressure to the government. There is something that's called the Jones Act. And what that does is allow other countries to send supplies to Puerto Rico without having to go through the United States. And that's needed now. What I understand is a few diesel ships that are just outside the port of Puerto Rico with supplies ready to help folks here. And they have not been able to port because of this act back from 1917 called the Jones Act.
Wow. So it's good to let people know about that. Christian Ortiz, thank you so much for joining us, and stay safe.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Russia is ramping up the war in Ukraine as the Kremlin says it will annex 4 regions Friday. The Ukrainian regions will be folded into Russia in a ceremony that will be attended by President Vladimir Putin. He's also expected to give a major speech. Ukraine has repeated its vows to recapture the soon-to-be annexed areas. Russia, meantime, says it will defend all its territory by any means and has given veiled threats of using nuclear weapons. As the fighting between Russia and Ukraine continues, civilians are being caught in the middle. As they struggle to survive, many are now counting their blessings as they escape their homes with their lives and little else. Nick Peyton Walsh reports from eastern Ukraine.
When the blasts pause, in rare quiet in Toretsk, there are few blessings to count, and most are bitter. One is here, a familiar scene of private worlds torn open by a Russian rocket 2 days earlier, but a place that might persuade you to believe in miracles. 19 people were trapped up here when rubble blocked the stairs, but somehow not one of them was even injured. A fire brigade ladder getting them all out. Not even survivors like Natalia know how.
A noise. I blinked twice and couldn't see. The balcony door flew open and trash blew in. I'm terrified of flames and I realized we're on the 7th floor and it's collapsing. Then someone screamed, "Don't come out," as there's no way. It's a miracle. I can't call it anything else.
As Putin's fake referenda just a few miles away threaten yet worse here, just now, the shelling has finally become too much for some. Rescuers are evacuating Nina, 73, after 6 months living alone without water or help. We're told she's the last person to leave her block. Two days ago, a rocket hit her building. Yet also magically, she was unscathed and just sat here under the gaping hole. The lonely agony of the struggle before this moment lying around. The pictures of life left, of her A-student daughter who died of meningitis aged 40, of the choices of what to leave and what to take, of how hard just eating, washing and drinking has been. Winter will rip through here, and this may be the last time the lights go out on this home.
That was Nick Peyton Walsh reporting. According to the latest numbers from the UN, there have been nearly 15,000 civilian casualties from the war in Ukraine. Most of those injuries were caused by the use of explosive weapons, including shelling from heavy artillery. The Holy Father spoke out against the monstrosities occurring in Ukraine Wednesday after the Apostolic Almoner, Cardinal Konrad Krajewski, returned with a report from the war-torn country.
Stamattina ho potuto parlare col Cardinal Krajewski, che era del rientro dall'Ucraina, e mi ha raccontato cose terribili. Pensiamo all'Ucraina e preghiamo per questo popolo martoriato.
This was Cardinal Krajewski's fourth trip to Ukraine on behalf of the Holy Father, and perhaps his most dangerous. The Cardinal says someone shot at him while he was loading supplies into a van. The Catholic Church has always been a staunch defender of life, and tonight one family is celebrating an infant's life after a rare heart surgery saved him. In honor of World Heart Day, Mandy Gaither tells us more about the procedure and the baby boy who now lives because of it.
From the beginning, Danielle Edmonds says her son DJ was a miracle.
I ended up having a vanishing twin syndrome.
Despite losing one twin, Edmonds says DJ kept growing, but with a heart defect. She gave birth at 26 weeks.
He coded on us all together about 3 times. As you can imagine, it was scary. I thought I had lost my baby.
After he was born, DJ was on a ventilator, eventually diagnosed with a double outlet right ventricle, a heart anomaly where the left ventricle isn't able to pump blood to the body. Traditional open heart surgery wouldn't help, says Dr. Hani Najum.
We needed to do something.
Deciding what to do started with this 3D image of DJ's heart printed out at Cleveland Clinic.
It's better to have a replica of this heart in my hand in the office, so I can decide exactly what I can do, and then I can go in the operating room and execute that operation.
That led Najm to perform a ventricle switch, a procedure he's done before, but never on someone this young. In June 2021, Najm closed the defect and, using a conduit, connected the left ventricle to the pulmonary artery, allowing it to send blood to the lungs.
From there, we could tell he was a whole new baby because his color was coming back.
After time in the pediatric intensive care unit, then rehab, DJ is now home.
He's going to have heart failure for the rest of his life, but he's still here to fight.
I'm Mandy Gaither.
Oh, what a beautiful smile. Still to come on Currents News, all she wants to do is help people. Next, the teen who wants to be the youngest graduate at one nursing school. And he made it happen. Yankee fans rejoicing over Aaron Judge's historic home run. She has a God-given gift for caring for other people. A teen is working to become the youngest person to graduate from Arizona State University's nursing school in Phoenix. Cameron Palome has the story.
I'm first going to have you turn your head to the left and right.
She may not be old enough to drive.
I'm just going to have you let this leg kind of flop to the table there. Perfect.
But in less than a year's time, 15-year-old Eliana Tenenbaum will become the youngest person to ever graduate from ASU's Edison College of Nursing program.
Well, from a very young age, I've been passionate about medicine and helping others. And I think that largely has to do with my dad, who is a general practitioner.
It was at his office where she was first introduced to what would become her future passion. Under his watchful eye, she even gave her first B12 shot to her dad at just 4 years old.
He taught me how to do thyroid ultrasounds and interpret them at 8 years old.
So it only makes sense that next summer she'll receive her BSN, just the first step in her journey to becoming a nurse practitioner. Her determination to succeed came into focus even further during the pandemic.
Well, it definitely served as an eye-opener event, but I really would say that it honestly reinforced my idea of becoming a nurse because, look, we need people so badly to help care for patients, and I want to be one of those people.
Eliana graduated high school early while also being enrolled in college courses, a pace of learning she's come to embrace now within ASU's 16-month accelerated nursing program.
We need capable, intelligent, unafraid, and bold nurses out there.
Clinical Associate Professor Dr. Elidia Munoz-Rascon says they are attributes she saw in Eliana immediately.
Seeing these students that have this fire, that have this excitement, that have just this drive, that it gives me hope for the future of our nursing profession, and I think that's exactly what we need right now.
That was Cameron Palome reporting. While she is young, Eliana will be able to legally work as a nurse as soon as she passes her boards, and we wish her good luck. And finally, it is the moment Yankee fans have been waiting for. Aaron Judge hits his 61st home run of the season, tying the record in the American League.
And the 3-2. Drilled deep to left field. This could be it. See ya. He's done it. Number 61.
And no fans get the ball. Wednesday, the slugger blasted a 2-run homer in the 7th inning against the Toronto Blue Jays. He received congratulations from his team and a nice ovation from the Toronto crowd. My kids and I were also cheering in our living room. Judge has now tied former Yankee Roger Maris for the league record. How exciting. And that is Currents News. I'm Christy Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.